Good morning everyone, this is George Bayruthi from FS Securities giving you the weekly report for Monday morning the 17th of November. First of all, who we are. We're a stockbroking firm located on the Gold Coast in Queensland, Australia. A bit more about the company later in this presentation, but let me start with the disclaimer. Everything I say here in this presentation is just for general advice and general information only. Before you take any action, please consult with your professional advisor or talk to us directly. A copy of this disclaimer is available to you should you wish to receive it. Please call the office. That's a phone call away. We like to mention that at FS Securities we offer a very attractive interest rate of 7% per annum. That's a managed investment fund, or 9% over 3 years. In both cases, interest is paid monthly. But let me start with the data over the full week. Let me start initially with what happened on Saturday morning. When we woke up, we found that Wall Street finished up mixed. We see that the Dow Jones was actually finished at 17,634. It was down 18 points. The S&P 500 index finished at 2039, which is almost the same level when it started the week. So it's hardly unchanged over the full week. But however, both indices over the full week were actually up by slightly by 0.4%. In Europe, the Stockmarket 50 index that comprises several European major markets were actually up on Saturday morning by 0.1% to 3,060. In London, the FTSE 100 index was up by 0.3% to 6,654. And in Japan, the Nikkei index was up 0.6% on Friday at 17,490, and that is a 7-year high. In China, the Shanghai index was steady at 2,581. On the commodities, gold on Saturday morning was trading at 1,189 US per ounce, and that was up $27 from this time the day before. Over the full week, it was only $15 up. Silver at $16.31, up 70 cents overnight on Saturday morning. However, over the full week it was only up 55 cents. Oil at $75.90 US a barrel was up $1.70 or 2.5%. Copper, the world's economic barometer, was up 1.8%. And iron ore, which is important for our miners such as BHP, Rio, Atlas Iron and Fortescue, was steady at 75.5 US a ton. On the currencies, our dollar is now 87.6 euro cents, 102.1 Japanese yen, and 69.9 euro cents, and will give you 55.8 British pence. And these of course are intra-bank rates, so therefore if you walk into the bank this morning, obviously you're going to get less. On our market on Friday, a recovery in the banks helped shares manage their first day of gains for the week, as a continuing slump in oil prices put pressure on energy stocks. However, with the oil price rising on Saturday morning, we may find that the energy stocks recovering this morning. The benchmark ASX 200 index rose on Friday by 10 points or 0.2%. However, over the full week, the index fell 95 points or 1.7%. The best performers over the full week amongst the leaders: Newcrest Mines up 3.5%, followed by Westfield up nearly 3%. The worst performers: Santos down 2.3%, followed by AMP 1.4%. The best sector was gold and the worst sector was energy. On the economic news that may affect our market and those overseas today, we have the new motor vehicles sales in Australia, and in the United States tonight we have industrial production data. Local stocks are poised to open slightly higher. The SPY futures contract was up 5 points a short time ago, indicating a flat to slightly up today when the market opens. Now over the week, on Monday morning, actually what we do, we actually give you a general view about what happened over the full week. But let me start with Friday, when we see that the volume on Friday was, the lowest in the full week. We started on Monday with a volume of nearly 1.9 billion, and every day following Monday the volume dropped. On Friday the volume was down to a mere 1.3 billion. That is actually the lowest volume in nearly 3 weeks. And you can see up the top here, we see that the declines exceeded advancing stocks 4 days in a row. However, with a lower volume, declining volume, that is more or less telling us that even though there has been a decline in the market, it wasn't a severe decline, which still tells us that the big players are sitting on the sideline expecting the market to go higher. Alright, now following that, I'd like to give you over the last 50 days or 10 weeks. You can see that the advances over declines has been below. So the last 2 weeks we've had more advancing stocks than declining stocks. Over the last 10 weeks, the average has been 46% of all the stocks in terms of advances versus declines. If you just ignore the stocks that actually did not shift, advances over advances and declines is 56%. So in other words, more declining stocks than advancing stocks over the last 10 weeks on average. Okay, on Friday we also saw that amongst the top 200, Paladin Energy continues to go higher by 5%. Northern Star, being a gold producer, was up 3.4%. And on the negative side, we have Sundance Energy down nearly 13%, Horizon Oil down 5%, Grain Corp down 4%. Okay, we give you that snapshot every morning so you can see what happened over the last 24 hours. If any of those stocks interest you, or you have them and you want to discuss them, all you have to do is call the office. In terms of the sectors, you can see here we also give you this chart indicating which sector has actually went up and which sector has gone down on Friday. You can see that energy was down 12% on Friday. That was actually 1.6%. However, it finished at the 12.2%. So in actual fact, it finished at the low end of that range over the full day. Other than that, we have the resources down 0.3%, consumer staples down 0.4%, and so is the utilities down 0.4%. Alright, on the positive ends, the best performing stock was actually gold, 1% up on Friday, and finished on its high. That column that you can see here in the blue indicates at what point in that range it finished. If it's on the high end, it tells us that it actually finished on the high end of the range, which is very, very positive. And in actual fact, has the market found out that on that night, 24 hours later, that gold would go up by $27, it's quite an indication that the sector was actually preluding that particular increase, up by 1% and finished on the high of the range. If you look at other sectors that have moved up beyond gold, the best performing sector was probably consumer discretionary. was up 0.6%. Again, it finished on the high end of the range. Alright, we also on Monday we give you a snapshot over the last 2 weeks, what happened in America, the commodities, the currencies, and few more extra additional information that may help you to trade effectively. When we see that the Dow Jones over the last 2 weeks was up by 1.4%, 0.4% last week, and obviously the week before it was up by 1%. A combination of 2 weeks was up by 1.4%. The Nasdaq, the technology index, was up by 1.6% over the last 2 weeks, and the S&P 500 up 1%. Also the VIX, which is actually the volatility index, we call it the fear index, is very steady at around 13 points. On the currencies, we see that the American dollar was steady last week. However, over the last 2 weeks was up by 0.7%. The Australian dollar was strong last week by 1.4%, but when you combine the last 2 weeks, it was still down 0.5%, indicating that 2 weeks ago the Australian dollar was hammered badly by at least 2%. The US sterling was weaker against the US dollar by 2%. Now we also like to look at the put to call ratio. 2 weeks ago it was 0.78, that is for every one call option there was 0.78 put. It lowered slightly last week to 0.74. It tells us that the fear is low, complacency, you may call it, is high. However, the sentiment is reasonably positive as far as the American market is concerned. And we still believe that here at FS Securities that the American market has got a good, perhaps progression on the upside the next 6 to 8 weeks. Gold was up 1.3% last week. When you combine the last 2 weeks, it was up by 1.5%. Silver rose quite tremendously last week by nearly 3.6%. However, over the last 2 weeks, still below gold ratio, just up 1.2%, as you can see here on this last column on the right hand side. Crude oil, the last 2 weeks was down by 5.7%. Then looking at commodities, wheat was up 5.3%. It had a very nice rise last week by nearly 9%. Again, we give you those figures because it may help you to understand the trend in the market. Now, coming to the Australian market, as I mentioned, the last 2 weeks our market was down 1.3%. Last week was the major damage by 1.7%. 95 points down over the last week. Now, if you look at the various companies over the last 2 weeks, Telstra and Westfield are the 2 best performing stocks, followed by CBA over the last 2 weeks, up 1.6%. On the negative side, Santos down 7% over the last 2 weeks. Woolworths down 6% over the last 2 weeks. Westpac down 5% over the last 2 weeks. NAB 6.6% down over the last 2 weeks. Remember that some of the banks went ex-dividends, but still it's a lot less than the overall drop in the market for these stocks over the last 2 weeks. Okay, finally, the companies that will offer ex-dividends this week, going down that list. Tomorrow we have ResMed, Whitefield on the 20th, Deluxe on the 25th. Alright, to finish off who I am, my name is George Beiruthi. I'm the director here at FS Securities. As you can see, I have many years of trading and investment experience and several qualifications to support what I offer my clients. My ambition today is to help our clients and prospective clients to become effective investors and traders. Now, the company FS Securities, I mentioned, we're a stockbroking firm. We're fully licensed. We trade equities, options, commodities, CFDs, futures and foreign exchange. Our mission is to educate our clients and work with them as consultants to pick trades and manage their portfolio. We like our clients to be engaged with us for most, if not each trade. Now, how to reach us? We're just one phone call away. 61 for Australia, 7 for Queensland, 5630-4141, that's our landline. You can call me on my mobile. I'm available to receive your call 7 days a week. 6104 local, overseas 411-259526. You can write to me at george@fssecurities.com.au, or you can visit our website, and if you're not already a member, you can actually register for a 15-day free trial to see all our daily recommendations, daily scans, current trading positions and results. You'll also see our tutorials, editorials, education webinars and many charts and a lot of information. So why don't you register now for the 15-day free trial. Well, that's all from us here at FS Securities. Remember to trade safely and wisely. We will be back at 1:15 this afternoon Queensland time to tell you what happened in the market in the morning. So that's all from us. Have a nice day.